Okay, real talk for a second. Doesn't managing your money sometimes feel like you're trying to like solve a puzzle, but like half the pieces are missing?
Right.
Especially like for us millennials, everyone's like save for retirement and invest wisely, but like also enjoy those avocado toasts. It's like, where do we even begin?
Yeah,
And that is exactly where Broke Millennial comes in.
for sure.
So in this deep dive, we're going to be pulling out the best tips from this book, Broke Millennial, so you can, level up your financial game. We're going to cut through the jargon,
Yeah.
practical advice.
Oh, actionable.
Yes, that's what we're here for.
Well, and what I think is so interesting about this book is how it tackles like the mental side of money. It's not just about like spreadsheets and numbers, which can be like really intimidating for people.
Right.
It's about like understanding those emotions, the habits that we've built around money, often without realizing it.
Okay, so unpack that for me a little bit. What do we mean when we talk about like the mental side of money?
Well, think about it. Have you ever like made an impulse purchase or like felt anxious about checking your bank balance?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
That's your like money blueprint at work.
Yeah.
And basically it's like a set of beliefs and behaviors that we develop around money. And it's usually based on our upbringing, like our childhood
Oh,
experiences.
interesting. So like if your family was like really stressed about money growing up,
Mm-hmm.
you might be more likely to be a saver as an adult.
Exactly. Or let's say like you grew up in a household where money was like never discussed.
Yeah.
It was like taboo.
Right.
You might find it uncomfortable to talk about finances, like even with a partner,
Yeah.
which is, so important.
Yeah.
Broke Millennial has this like great anecdote about this woman who always felt this like need to buy designer shoes
Okay.
because growing up, like her family could only afford to shop at like discount stores.
Right.
So it wasn't even really about the shoes. It was about like filling this like emotional need tied to her childhood.
Wow. Okay, that's a light bulb moment for me. I can definitely see how those like subconscious beliefs, from childhood
Mm-hmm.
could play a role in my own spending habits. So like how do we actually change those ingrained patterns? That's what I'm really curious about.
So the book emphasizes awareness as like the first step. So once you understand your money blueprint, you can start to challenge those unhelpful beliefs
Okay.
and behaviors. And it's about like, taking back control, not letting your past dictate your financial future.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So once we have like kind of a handle on our money mindset, where do we like go from there?
Mm-hmm.
I know the book talks a lot about budgeting,
Yeah.
which honestly used to make me cringe. Like,
It has such a bad rap.
yeah, it does.
But the book does a great job of like reframing it.
Okay.
Budgeting is not like restrictive. It's not a punishment,
Right.
but it's like this tool. It's like this tool for aligning your spending with your values. It's about making conscious choices with your money so you can achieve your goals, whatever they are.
Okay, that sounds way less scary than what I imagined in my head.
Yeah.
But like, how do we actually get started with that? Like, are there any specific strategies the book recommends?
One like really practical tool that I love is the 50-20-30 rule.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a simple framework, right? You divide your income.
Yeah.
50% for those essential needs like your housing and your food,
Okay.
20% for savings and debt repayment,
Okay.
and 30% for your wants,
Ooh, wants.
the fun stuff.
Okay.
Makes life enjoyable.
Wait, hold on. 30% for fun? Like that's actually doable.
Right.
I was picturing like some miserable eat ramen every night kind of budget.
Yeah, that's not what this is about. This is about balance, right?
Right.
The 50-20-30 rule is not about deprivation. It's about finding that balance.
Right.
It helps you like prioritize your spending so you can enjoy life and make progress towards your financial goals.
Okay, I'm sold. But tracking like every penny I spend still sounds kind of tedious. Is there a shortcut? Like what can we do?
The book actually suggests tracking your spending for like a short period, even like just a month,
Okay.
just to get a clear picture of where your money's going. You might be surprised by what you discover.
I have a feeling I might be terrified by what I discover.
It can be an eye-opener for sure,
Yeah.
but that awareness is so valuable. It allows you to make like more informed decisions and like adjust those spending habits accordingly.
Okay, so it's like that initial effort of like tracking everything helps you build like a more intuitive sense of like your spending patterns in the long run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when like budgeting becomes less about like meticulous tracking and more about making like conscious choices that are aligned with your priorities.
All right, let's be real for a second. Most millennials I know are carrying some form of debt.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that something Broke Millennial dives into?
Absolutely. The book acknowledges that debt is like a reality for so many, whether it's, student loans or, credit card balances or, something else. And it offers some like really helpful strategies for like tackling it head on.
Okay. So what are like the key takeaways when it comes to paying down debt? Like where do we even begin?
One of the first things the book emphasizes is like understanding the different types of debt you have and those interest rates.
Right.
And then it introduces like two popular methods for debt repayment,
Okay.
the avalanche and the snowball approaches.
Ooh, okay. Okay, I've heard of those. But remind me, like what's the difference again?
Okay, so with the avalanche method, you focus on paying down the debt with the highest interest rate first, which is going to save you money in the long run.
Hmm.
It's like tackling the like biggest, most expensive monster first.
Okay, that makes sense logically. But what about the snowball method? How did that one work?
So the snowball method prioritizes paying off the smallest debt first, regardless of the interest rate. So it might not be like the most mathematically efficient approach,
Right.
but it can provide like this huge psychological boost and help you build momentum.
So it's like getting those like quick wins early on to like keep you motivated.
Exactly. It's about finding the approach that like resonates with your personality,
Right.
keeps you engaged in the process.
Okay.
Because what works for one person might not work for another. And the book really emphasizes that.
That's refreshing. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
Speaking of things that are often like unique to each individual, the book also talks about like financial relationships, right?
Yes. And it really emphasizes open communication,
Okay.
especially when it comes to like partners
Right.
or like close friends. Because money can be a tricky topic.
Yeah.
And like avoiding those conversations can lead to like misunderstandings and resentment later on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I've definitely been there. Sometimes it just feels easier to avoid the subject altogether. Even though I know it's probably not the best approach. So what kind of like advice does the book offer on like navigating those conversations?
So it encourages setting like clear expectations early on in a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's discussing like financial goals openly,
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to manage money together that like work for both parties.
Right.
It even covers like those awkward situations like splitting bills with friends
Right.
or figuring out like joint expenses.
I love that. I think it was an anecdote in the book about like ghosting your friends because like you can't afford to go out.
Yes,
It's so real.
it's so real, but the book like encourages honest communication
Yeah.
instead of like avoidance.
Right.
So maybe suggest like alternative activities that fit everyone's budget or
Yeah.
just like be upfront about your financial limitations.
That sounds way less stressful than disappearing from the group chat every time someone suggests like an expensive outing. Like it's all about finding that balance, right, between being responsible with your money, but also still enjoying your social life.
Absolutely. It's about making like conscious choices that align with your values and priorities, both like financially and socially.
Yeah. I'm loving all of these practical tips, and I have to admit, I'm starting to feel less intimidated by like this whole money thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about taking it one step at a time
Yeah.
and finding what works for you.
Okay, so we've talked about like understanding our money mindset, getting a grip on budgeting, even like tackling that scary beast called debt.
Mm-hmm.
What else does Broke Millennial cover that's like crucial for building a solid financial foundation?
One of the cornerstones that the book emphasizes is like building an emergency fund.
Okay, an emergency fund, got it.
It's like that safety net that can protect you from like financial free fall
Okay.
when those like unexpected expenses like pop up.
Okay, an emergency fund, got it. But like how much should we actually be saving and like where do we even keep that money?
Those are great questions. And we're going to dive into those answers in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Oh, cliffhanger. All right.
So before the break, we were just about to like tackle the nitty-gritty of building that all-important emergency fund.
Yes. I'm ready to get into the details here. How much should we actually be saving? Like that's what I'm all about, knowing the practical steps.
Okay, so Break Millennial recommends starting with a goal of like $500 to $1,000.
Okay.
I know, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about building the habit first.
Right.
Accessibility, not intimidation.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Starting small. But how do you like get from a few $100 to like a safety net that can actually like handle an emergency?
Right. So the book suggests gradually building up to like 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses.
Yeah.
Now, That number's going to like vary depending on your individual circumstances and your lifestyle.
Right.
But think of it as like having enough to cover essentials, like your rent, your food, your bills, if you were to lose your job or like face a big unexpected cost.
So it's not about having like a year's worth of salary stashed away. I was starting to panic a little bit.
No need to panic.
Okay.
The idea is to just have like a buffer.
Right.
So to prevent you from spiraling into debt if something unexpected happens.
Mhm.
And remember, we're talking about like essential expenses,
Okay.
not your daily latte habit.
Okay, that's reassuring. Now, where should we actually like keep this emergency fund? Just a regular like savings account.
So like a high yield savings account
Okay.
or a money market account.
Okay.
Those are good options because they offer a slightly better return on your money than like a traditional checking account.
Okay. High yield savings. Got it. So now we're starting to like build up this emergency fund, but the book also talks about like financial buckets, right?
Yes. So instead of just having one big pool of savings,
Right.
you divide it into different buckets, each with a specific purpose. So you've got your emergency fund bucket, but you might also have a bucket for like a down payment on a house,
Okay.
another for travel, maybe one for a new car.
Ooh, travel.
Yeah. Whatever your goals are.
So like virtual piggy banks
Yeah,
for different goals.
exactly.
That's a much more like visual way to think about saving. I can see how that would be motivating.
It is. It really helps you like prioritize your savings and see your progress towards each goal.
Yeah.
And it can make saving like feel less abstract and more tangible,
Yeah.
which is always a good thing.
Speaking of tangible, let's move on to a topic that like feels very grown up, but also kind of intimidating, which is investing.
Mm-hmm.
Is Broke Millennial helpful for like beginners who have no idea where to start?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book breaks down investing in a way that's like easy to understand,
Okay.
even if you've never like bought a stock before.
Okay, because I'll admit the whole investing world feels like this like secret club I'm not invited to.
Mm-hmm.
So like what are the basic things I need to know? Like for someone who is totally clueless.
Okay, so the book covers the fundamentals of like different asset classes, like stocks, bonds, index funds.
Okay, pause for a second. What's an index fund?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I hear that term thrown around. I'm never quite sure what it means.
So think of an index fund like a basket of stocks
Okay.
that tracks a specific market index, like the S&P 500.
Okay.
So instead of like picking individual stocks,
Right.
you're investing in like a diversified portfolio of companies,
Okay.
which can be a like lower risk way to get started.
Interesting. So if I like buy into an index fund, I'm essentially investing in a bunch of companies at once.
Yes, exactly. It's a way to diversify without having to like pick and choose individual stocks,
Yeah.
which can be time consuming and risky,
Right.
especially for beginners.
Okay, that's making a lot more sense. But what about like all those stories you hear of people like losing money in the stock market?
Yeah.
That's what always holds me back from investing. It just seems so scary.
It's understandable to be wary, but remember, the book stresses the importance of like long-term investing.
Okay.
So the stock market goes up and down in the short term, but over the long haul, it's historically trended upwards.
So it's not about like getting rich quick schemes.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's about like slow and steady growth, like that snowball, right?
Right.
Rolling downhill, getting bigger over time.
Okay.
Which brings us to the like magical concept of compound interest.
Yes. Compound interest. That always sounded a bit like financial wizardry to me. Like, how does it actually work?
Okay, so imagine you invest $100 today.
Okay.
It earns 5% interest.
Yeah.
Next year, you'll have $105,000.
Right.
But the magic is that in year 2,
Oh.
you're earning interest, not just on your original 100, but on the 105 you now have.
Right.
So your money starts growing faster.
So it's like earning interest on your interest.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. But how does that like translate into like real world results? Like I need to see the big picture.
Think of it this way. The earlier you start investing, even small amounts,
Yeah.
the more time your money has to compound and like grow exponentially.
Right.
So someone who starts investing in their 20s will end up with significantly more money in retirement than someone who starts in their 40s, even if they invest the same amount each month.
Wow. Okay. That's mind-blowing. So basically, procrastination is the enemy of compound interest.
Yes, exactly. The book really emphasizes like the power of starting early,
Yeah.
even if you can only invest like a small amount at first. Consistency is key.
Okay, I'm starting to see why. Like investing is such a big deal. It's not just for like wealthy people or finance gurus. It's like a tool for anyone to build long-term wealth.
Absolutely.
But it still feels a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Like where do I even begin? Like what are the first steps?
That's a great question, and one that Broke Millennial tackles head on. Stay with us after the break as we dive into some practical tips for getting started with investing, even if you're a complete beginner.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more confident about this whole investing thing after that last segment. But I still need a nudge in the right direction. Where should a total beginner, like me, actually start?
Okay, so Broke Millennial offers some really practical advice for dipping your toes into the investing pool.
Okay, I like that.
And a great place to begin is with a Roth IRA
Okay.
or a 401k, especially if your employer offers a matching contribution.
Okay, I've heard those terms before, but remind me, what are those again?
Okay, so a 401k is a retirement savings plan that's offered through your employer.
Right.
And you contribute a portion of your paycheck, like pre-tax, and often your employer will match a percentage of your contributions. It's like getting free money.
Free money, yes.
A Roth IRA, on the other hand, is an individual retirement account that you set up yourself,
Okay.
and you contribute after-tax dollars.
Okay.
But your earnings grow tax-free, and you won't owe taxes on withdrawals in retirement.
So if my employer offers a 401k match, I should absolutely jump on that.
It's a no-brainer. It's like an incredible way to boost your retirement savings early on.
Yeah.
And even if your employer doesn't offer a match, contributing to a 401k or a Roth IRA is a smart move for building that long-term wealth.
Got it. Okay. But what if I want to explore other investment options beyond those retirement accounts?
Mhm.
Where do I go from there?
So once you've got those retirement accounts rolling, you can start exploring other options like index funds
Okay.
or ETFs, which are exchange-traded funds,
Hmm.
and those track a specific index or sector, like we were talking about before.
So building a diversified portfolio is key.
Diversification is essential for managing risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Mm.
Spread your investments across different asset classes to reduce your exposure to any single investment, like performing poorly.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like that old saying, don't bet the farm. Okay, so I'm starting to get the basics of investing, but what about the emotional roller coaster? The stock market is always going up and down. How do I avoid making rash decisions based on fear or greed?
That's a really important point. And Broke Millennial really stresses the importance of staying calm and not letting emotions dictate your investment decisions.
Okay.
Remember, you're in it for the long haul. Short-term fluctuations are normal. Stick to your plan and resist the urge to panic sell when the market dips.
Okay. Easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when you see those headlines about market crashes.
I know, it can be really tough.
Yeah.
But that's where having a solid investment plan and understanding your risk tolerance comes in.
Right.
And if you're ever feeling unsure, it's always a good idea to talk to a financial advisor.
It's okay to ask for help,
Yes.
especially in a world as complex as finance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, speaking of topics that can be emotionally charged, the book also touches on financial conversations in relationships.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Money can be a huge source of tension, even in the strongest relationships. And Broke Millennial encourages open and honest communication from the get-go.
What are some practical tips for navigating those conversations?
So the book suggests setting clear financial expectations early on in a relationship, whether that's deciding how to split bills, contributing to shared expenses, or planning for big purchases. It also emphasizes the importance of regularly checking in with your partner
Okay.
about your financial goals and making adjustments as needed.
Communication is key. It sounds so simple,
I know.
but it's something that a lot of couples, I think, struggle with.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah.
But think about it. Would you rather have those potentially awkward conversations now
Right.
or deal with resentment and financial conflict down the line?
Ugh, yeah. You make a really good point. It's better to be upfront and honest, even if it feels uncomfortable at first.
Right.
And I love how the book also addresses those tricky situations with friends, like splitting the bill at a restaurant or deciding on vacation budgets.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Yeah.
But it offers great advice on setting boundaries,
Mhm.
being upfront about your financial limitations, and finding alternative ways to connect that don't break the bank.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe suggest like a potluck dinner instead of that like fancy restaurant.
Right.
Or like opt for a camping trip instead of that luxurious all-inclusive resort.
It's all about getting creative,
Yeah,
finding solutions that work for everyone involved.
exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from understanding our money blueprint to budgeting, tackling debt, building an emergency fund, and even diving into the world of investing. What would you say are like the most important takeaways for our listeners who want to improve their financial well-being?
I think one of the biggest things that Broke Millennial emphasizes is that financial wellness isn't a like one-size-fits-all formula.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your unique relationship with money, taking control of your finances, and making informed decisions that align with your values and goals. It's about empowering yourself to build a brighter financial future. And
Yes.
remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Start with small steps, be patient with yourself, and celebrate your progress along the way.
What a fantastic message to end on. It's been such an insightful deep dive into Broke Millennial. I feel like I've gained a whole new level of financial literacy. It's been a pleasure exploring this book with you. And remember, financial well-being is within your reach. It's all about taking that first step and embracing the journey.
Absolutely. And for our listeners out there, we challenge you to take one small action this week, inspired by Broke Millennial. Maybe it's setting up that budget you've been putting off, finally starting that emergency fund, or even just researching different investment options. Every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to achieving your financial goals. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.